Every realtor you know and every realtor I know have a book of business. They're running a business.
That distinction is something that you can intentionally create.
Which you'll sometimes also hear people say AEO, like answer engine optimization, but generally people say GEO.
Let's go online. Let me look you up and see how I can find you.
It all works together in harmony.
Very simple things I can do to train my brain to raise my happiness baseline.
If we could make it even a little bit enjoyable and make it feel like they have a real human support, which is something that's lacking today, then even better.
Hey everyone, welcome to Know Like Trust for Real Estate, where I help you craft branding and marketing strategies that align with your unique strengths. I'm Christine George, and agents who work with me grow their business on average by 40% by aligning their marketing with who they are, not what they sell. I have a very special episode for you today. I have taken a look at some of my favorite episodes this season, and I have curated a list of the best tips to help you create know, like, trust in your business. 3 sections, 7 tips. Let's get started. First up is Angie Javier from Realtor.com. Angie does something that's a little unconventional when she speaks to an agent and that agent says that their business has slowed down. She actually looks them up online right there in front of the agent. Take a listen to what she finds.
Very easy. Let's go online. Let me look you up and see how I can find you. And so what we do is usually if we're on a Zoom call, or even if I'm with agents at a live event and they often come to me, which is honestly really great, Christine. Even I get let's be honest, I get a lot of complaints. They come to me and they go, oh, this lead thing about Realtor.com. They just have this misconception about what we truly are and what we do. And what I like about that is they found enough trust in me to come to me and talk to me about it. Mm-hmm. And so in that moment, my goal with that agent or broker is to help them see another side of Realtor.com through me and to we truly care about them and the industry, right? Because I wouldn't be here if that wasn't the value here at Realtor.com, right? We truly want the industry to succeed and each agent to be successful. And so even if I'm next to them, I'll say, well, let me pull you up right now online and kind of see where you are. You say your leads aren't calling you back. You say that, your sphere isn't calling you back. Let me just look you up online right now. And 98% of the time, Christine, I cannot find them online. Yeah. That is truly the first step. Because if I can't find you online and you're trying to do an open house this weekend and you're trying to work with buyers, guess what? Yeah. They've seen 10 other agents. And they've also seen 10, listing agents as well. And you better believe they're taking all those business cards back home and they're looking you up online. They're looking up on social media. And if they can't find you, your card is gone.
Yeah.
So let's look you up. First step, if you do not come up on Realtor.com, we're getting you on Realtor.com. Your profile, your presence to be on our site is free. There's no cost for you to do Realtor.com, right? Let's get you on that free profile. There's that. Next, I'm going to look for your website. How many websites do you have out there? Why do you have a website that has a green logo and another website that has a red logo? Happens all the time, Christine, I'm telling you. And if they don't have multiple websites, they have no website, right?
I know.
That's the next thing. And so, then I'll lead them to resources on how they can get a website, or if they just need a landing page, maybe their brokerage offers them free websites, whatever, just get it up, right?
Yeah.
And then we go through social media. Let me see. Are you on Facebook at least? LinkedIn? Are you on something? And so, we'll start to just kind of go through. And I do that right next to them so they can truly see. And they get excited about it because they see it's free for me to get on Realtor.com. I can do that. I give them something that's actionable. So I say, okay, so I want you to get your profile up to date. And then I want you to reach out to me in 2 weeks. Let's take a look at it again. So they just get really excited knowing that I'm going to help them be accountable in the beginning stages. Yeah. And that's really the first step. And then once they're in there, I feel a lot of times they get excited about it. They want to keep the momentum going. They take a couple of my webinars and they compare it to other things that they're learning. And we start the planning process and just really get them on their way to building that online brand presence so that they can be found.
In this next clip, Google expert Tasia Custode says most agents leave the easiest win on the table. Here's the tool you can't ignore.
The Google Workspace ecosystem is like your Google suite of apps. So I want you to think of it like Gmail Drive, Docs, Sheets, Slides. You could technically include Gemini in that now if you wanted to, though I don't think it's actually, according to Google, part of the Google Workspace ecosystem, but it all works together in harmony. So, that's really how you need to think about it. The difference between that and Drive is one product. So when we're talking about Google Workspace as a whole, we're talking about a plethora of those Google products working in concert with each other. Google Drive is really I think of it like a garage where you house all of your cars, if you will. Yep. So Drive houses Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, and the like. Yes. And there's a lot of Gemini tools within each of these Google Workspace products now as well. Google Workspace is you can access, I don't want to get people confused because if they Google Workspace, they're going to get a couple different things come up. And a lot of people are going to wonder, well, is it free? Is it not? I say technically it is free because you can have a free Gmail account that also gives you, it's a Google account. So you also have Drive and Docs and Sheets and Slides and all the things.
Yes.
But if you're a business, you're going to pay for your Google Workspace account, if you will. Yes. And there's Pro and there's AI Pro. There's all these different names for it. Google loves a naming convention. They change it, I swear, every week, Christine. But it is, I would say it's worth it to pay for a Pro version of Google Workspace just so that you can access these extra, say, Gemini AI powered goodness that, I'm sure we'll get into. But does that make sense? So it's basically housing a lot of the different Google products. That's your workspace.
Next up, SEO expert Emily Gertenbach says this is one thing only you can do to stay searchable.
So GEO, which you'll sometimes also hear people say AEO, like answer engine optimization, but generally people say GEO. That is a term that has come up not because Google or OpenAI or anyone said, hey, this is a thing now, but it came up because people in marketing and in the SEO industry were like, okay, well, this is a shift, right? It's something different. Along the way, over the past 18 months or so, there's been a lot of talk about, well, are there different techniques? What are the techniques that are going to work? People try things and they'll work at first and they get very excited and might treat it as the gospel and say, this is now what we have to do for GEO. But, so a week ago from when we're recording this, Google itself published an update to its guidelines that it maintains about how search works. And they essentially said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but they essentially said, GEO isn't really a thing.
No way.
Yes. So here's an example. Over the past 18 months, a lot of people realized that if you very clearly state a question and you answer it on your website, that can be picked up. That snippet can be picked up by Chat, GPT, OpenAI, Claude, etc. And that's true. That still holds true. But all you really needed to do all along, and I was telling people this, people were like, no, that can't be. Oh, I was right. All you really need to do is put the question as a subtitle in an article and then answer it. But a lot of folks were concerned that they needed to go change the code and apply a special type of code called schema, or sometimes called structured data, to that. And they wound up putting this code on all sorts of web pages, including web pages that aren't supposed to have that code, to the point that Google said, well, we're no longer going to recognize that code. It is no longer relevant. So, and I don't mean to throw anyone under the bus here because it was a wild time and Google was not giving anyone any kind of indication about what truly was best practice and what wasn't. But ultimately, there is nothing special you have to do for GEO. The blog post I mentioned walks through everything that Google said and what that means, but basically, SEO and GEO, it all comes down to the same thing. You need to be putting stuff online that provides real value to people. And Google actually said in their announcement that when you put content online, for it to work for regular search engines or for AI search engines, it can't be content that can be easily produced by a generative AI tool. So if you are only using AI chat tools to create content for your website, what you're doing is essentially just remixing other things that have existed before and exist in that tool's training memory, we'll call it. They can't actually create net new ideas. Might feel new to you because you hadn't thought of it, but in the scope of things that exist, it has already existed. So when you use AI to create articles and put them online, it's not adding enough new information to the conversation, and it's not going to perform well long term for search results. It might, for a day or two, it might show up in search results simply because it's a new page, but it won't last there over time. And what's really important is to create content yourself and then add your first person expertise to it. So, I'm sorry.
Story.
Yes. So there's an acronym you can remember. EEAT. EEAT. It stands for expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And so if you're a licensed professional, you are licensed to sell houses, you are a realtor, you have this experience, you can communicate this using examples of situations you helped your clients with, things you've seen, mistakes you yourself with your own eyes have seen sellers make and how to avoid them. When you communicate that, especially if you can speak about it in the first person, or if you're a team in the we form, that is going to be far more helpful for SEO and GEO than any particular hack or trick that has been talked about that you might have heard about on social over the past few years.
Being found is one thing, being chosen is another. Brand strategist Scott Coligan thinks the reason so many agents blend in is much simpler than we'd like to admit.
I work with a lot of brands that are struggling with how to be more relevant, how to be more differentiated in the market. And I always try to get them to understand that distinction is something that you can intentionally create. You don't have to wait for your consumer or your customer to tell you how you're different. It is your job to understand where there is an unmet need, or where there is a gap in the market, or where there is an opportunity to bring to value to life that is different, and then make that happen. And I always encourage brands to look outside of their category. For a real estate agent, look at hospitality, look at concierge medical services, look at interior design, look at bereavement services, look at anywhere where someone wants to feel cared for and advocated for, and understand, what are brands in these other spaces doing to try and bring that feeling to life, and what is maybe missing in the real estate world. If all you do is look at what other real estate agents are doing, you're not going to come up with anything that is distinct or powerful or differentiated. You've got to open up your world to more sources of inspiration and really focus on that feeling and those emotions that you want to deliver, not what the specifics of the tangible service.
Yeah, the transaction.
Yeah, the transaction.
Marc Davison and I do not agree about personal branding. In fact, we spent an entire episode talking about it. But he is right about one thing. Take a listen to what that is.
It's a manufactured concept. It didn't exist prior to... I've tried to trace it back in time, and here's what I got. Back in the 1970s and 1980s, agents were, I don't know if you were in the business then, but agents were part-time.
I was just a little baby then.
Yeah, okay. I was a bigger boy. But agents were part-timers. It wasn't a career. It wasn't a career. And you worked for a broker. The broker was the entity in the marketplace, and people contacted the broker, or maybe they knew, they knew whatever, Deborah is on the PTA and I'm on the PTA and she sells real estate. But Deborah didn't have listings. Deborah didn't have sold. She didn't have a portfolio. It all belonged to the broker. Deborah was a salesperson. She sold real estate. And the broker, their job was to promote Deborah. So the broker took out double truck ads in the newspaper, or took out ads that said Agent of the Month, Deborah, and had Deborah's headshot. Since Deborah didn't really have anything, then the only way to really promote Deborah was Deborah wore red hats. Deborah has a dog. Deborah can talk on a phone. Deborah's on the PTA. Deborah does this. Deborah does that. Sell her personality. Because everybody has a personality. And that's what you did in the absence of having a career, a profession, process, a belief, a philosophy, a client experience map, all the stuff, right? In the 1990s, these knuckleheads, Hobbs and Herder, began to take that thing that every agent wanted, which is like put me holding my phone, posing with my dog, and they called it personal branding. And that's where it happened. And so now all the Deborahs in real estate who had nothing else but their Pepsi and Smile and their puppy could have these little personal brands. Today, every realtor and every realtor I know have a book of business. They're running a business. They have an enterprise. They have listings. They have clients. They have reviews. They have everything that you can possibly ever want to build a brand. And to stay stuck in the, look, this is me on my phone, personal brand stuff, building it around your person. You're sitting on a explosive vault of good stuff that you can build a brand on. You don't need to build it around yourself. Build it around all the things that you created and make it a brand. And I'll just tack on this other thing. When you build it around yourself, then it's all about you. And that would be like Volvo building a brand around its founder. The whole reason to create a brand is because nobody likes anybody else's business. I love Apple. I have 16 different Apple products right on my desk here. I don't like the Apple Corp. I don't like their business practices. I don't like how they charge. I don't like anything about Apple business, but I love the brand. So what is that? It's a facade. It's a halo. It's a projection. It's a thing that businesses put over itself to distract people from focusing on the business. Because nobody likes anybody's business. And so what is that facade made of? It's made of ingredients that get me to see myself inside of it. Why do people buy Volvo? Because I self-identify as people who care about safety. When you build a personal brand, it's all about you. I don't see me in it. There's no facade. It's just about you and your business. And I don't love you or your business.
Yeah.
So I think that you can build a personal brand, but you're just doing what Deborah did 40 years ago. You're leaving all the other good stuff that could become part of the story that would take it outside of you as the person. That's my take on it.
And the last piece is trust. And trust isn't only built in front of your clients, it's also built behind the scenes and in the culture of your teams and your organization. Happiness expert Valerie Alexander shared with us a simple framework that we can implement immediately.
If you right now are just looking at your life and for reasons you can't really pinpoint, you're not experiencing happiness. And this is not about people who are suffering from depression. If you are suffering from depression, get professional help and take medication if you need to. But if you're looking around at your life and you're thinking, why am I not happier? Well, I have what I need. I have what I want. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs. My basic needs are met. Why do I not have happiness on a daily basis? Why do I not feel like a happy person? That's the person who should be checking out this book and saying, oh, there are very simple things I can do to train my brain to raise my happiness baseline. You're not going to be happy all the time. Happiness is an emotion. You're not going to feel happy all the time. You also feel sad sometimes. You feel angry sometimes. You feel frustrated sometimes. Those all happen. That's natural. The higher you can raise your happiness baseline, the happier you are just as a general, like I said, as a baseline, but also the faster you get back to that happiness.
Sure.
And that's what the book is about. It's about doing those exercises so that happiness becomes as natural as the language you speak.
Yes.
The framework for workforce happiness is really basic. There are 3 things that make people love their jobs: their sense of accomplishment, autonomy. Nobody wants to be micromanaged. If somebody is skilled and they know what they're doing, let them do it. And acknowledgement. People want to feel seen for their contributions. So I could say that right now. People say, oh, great. Okay, I will get accomplishment, autonomy, and acknowledgement in my workplace. They are not inherent instinctive skills. People always ask me, like, why is there so much bad management? Why is there so much bad leadership? Why are people what I call accidental managers? And it's because people fall into one of two categories. Either they're just naturally great managers. Naturally, they're good at it. And I've had a few natural great managers in my life. And every one of those people doesn't think they're anything special, which means they don't realize that other people are not naturally great managers. And if someone else is not a naturally great manager, they need training. And your naturally great manager didn't get training, so they don't see why training is necessary. The flip side is people who are not naturally great managers and they have never gotten any training and they think they're fine.
Yeah.
Well, I was never trained how to be a manager. Why would anybody need to be trained on that? Like, because you suck at it. Yeah. So it's very hard to have a leader understand it is the soft skills of management that need to be trained. So that is the framework around which my work is I have large scale workplace happiness assessments where I come in and I talk to all of the employees and I find out what are their real happiness pain points. Sometimes I'll have 5 employees tell me 5 different stories, but they're all about the same policy, or they're all about the same manager,
right?
Or they're all about the same coworker. The things that don't get spotted. This is my definition of a consultant based on the work I do. It's the person who asks your employees the questions you should have asked them in the first place and then charges you a reasonable amount to tell you what your employees would have told you for free.
And the last one is a little closer to home. That is my conversation with my co-founders at BKeeperAI.com. That is that our promise is we will provide accurate, easy expense assistance to our clients through human verification. That human verification is what builds trust, and that is our non-negotiable.
That was it in a nutshell. It's just trying to solve a problem that isn't being solved well today. And if we can make it even a little bit enjoyable and make it feel like they have a real human support, which is something that's lacking today, then even better. Even if it's 15 minutes of time to get somebody on the right track and using the product in the way that it was intended, that's 15 minutes that will then help ensure that you have a customer for the next 12 months.
Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this very special episode, I would love it if you would share it with your friends. Make sure to follow us on whatever podcast platform you're listening. If you're watching us on YouTube, click that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And make sure to sign up for our newsletter, The Sunbeam. Go to postandbeamcreative.com and sign up. I'm Christine George, and you're listening to Know Like Trust for Real Estate.